Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Sunday live and direct eLife Media Group with your boy BJ and DJ Live.
Yes.
Life Family Hustle. What's going on today? How everybody feeling?
Man, I'm doing extremely well. You know, I always look forward to these Sundays, man. It's nothing like starting the week with a lot of energy, with a lot of enthusiasm, with a lot of motivation, inspiration, aspiration, all that stuff, right? Because everybody needs it. They just don't know where to get it from.
Or don't know how to get it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you know what we do.
Yeah, man. For those who have been tuning in week by week, you're probably looking like right now, like, what is going on? You know, you see BJ, you see DJ, and you see another beautiful face in the building. So if you have not paid attention, this week we are doing a wonderful topic, a wonderful subject. I'm super psyched to talk about this subject this week, and that is the strength of a woman. So I'm kind of like, I'm gonna take the back seat and learn today. You know, I always say your network is your net worth. Well, we learned somebody new today. So I'm your boy BJ. This your man DJ, and who is this special guest? What we got going on here, Dirk?
Man, listen, guys, you guys are in for a treat today. Joining us on this segment on this Sunday evening is a lady that I have a lot of respect for. I met her probably it's been maybe 15 years ago, somewhere around that. You know, formerly I come from a real estate background. Used to own a RE/MAX real estate office here in Maryland for a number of years, and it was through that industry that her and I did a transaction together, and from that transaction we just became great friends, and she's amazing. I don't want to dig too much into her story, but you guys will hear about her. She's a phenomenal mother of three. She's a wife, she's an entrepreneur, she's an author, she's a keynote speaker. I mean, she's one of those things, you know, remember Sweet Lenny from Good Times? He used to open up his coat and he'd say, you want a plenty, you call Sweet Lenny. Well, if you want a plenty of knowledge, wisdom, and know-how, you know, Melanie Gamble is that person, and today you guys are going to hear from her. So, Melanie Gamble, how are you?
I am excellent.
All right, well, welcome to BJ and DJ Live.
I love it.
Look, so one thing you probably going to hear us say a lot throughout our show is real-time transparency. All right? So we don't hold no punches. We keep it all the way real. We keep it all the way live. And we pride ourselves on making ourselves vulnerable, because I think it's that vulnerability that creates that impact that a lot of people need in their lives and don't necessarily have.
That vulnerability is where you learn.
Yes. And
it's normally not you as the person that's being vulnerable learning. It's all of the hundreds of thousands of people that you can reach learning. So us, you know, opening up Pandora's box, it's been people that's already come to us, come to me, and like, man, I can't wait to see what happened on the next level. So I'm just thankful that you're here, man.
Yeah,
we need this.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Melanie, if you don't mind, just kind of sharing with the people. I mean, who is? I gave them a short, skinny, 30-second introduction, but who is Melanie Gamble?
Well, before I delve into who I am, I just want to thank you, Derek, for sharing your platform with me today, you and BJ. Thank you so much for this opportunity and to speak on the strength of a woman. But who am I? I'm a child of God, first and foremost. And then, as you said, I'm a wife. I'm a mom of 3 boys. So,
Life Family Hustle.
Right.
It's real.
Right, and I paused there. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. You know, the list goes on of things that I've done. A lot of things that I never lead with, but probably wife always comes first, which produced my 3 sons. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know BJ, you know, we've just been talking about having a phenomenal woman to join us, and you know, we've just getting into.
We started off saying that.
Yeah, we started.
We started off.
From the beginning. It was just a matter of when.
Yeah.
So you kicked it off.
Okay.
For
awesome.
us. You represent all those phenomenal women that's going to be joining us in the weeks and months and years ahead. So this is a very special day for you and for us and for all the folks out there that's following us. So again, I just want to say kudos. But so when you think about all that you just mentioned about, you know, being a wife and a mother and all of those things, like how do you balance all of that stuff? Like, really?
My standard answer to it is the truth. It is the grace of God.
Yes.
It is truly the grace of God. So funny, for the past 2 weeks, my husband was out of town on business travel, and I think I had shared with you one time, we were texting back and forth, and I'm just like, So I'm like doing 50,000 things at one time.
Yeah, that single mom grind.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, yeah, hats off to all the single moms.
Yes.
Lord knows, because I was feeling it for the past 2 weeks, and I was just like, I'm not exactly sure how people
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And they get it done. So
yeah, absolutely.
So balancing the life and being a mom and being a woman, because oftentimes you might have a man in the house that's an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
He's the go-getter. He's making it all happen. And not that it's rare, but it's
Right.
probably not as common, wouldn't you say, BJ?
I agree.
That you actually have the woman who's the entrepreneur, who's going out making it happen, who travels a whole lot and puts some of those responsibilities on the husband.
Right.
And so how your family structure is maybe a little different than most, but how do you guys come to that median place where you can kind of, balance that, and he lets you go and spread your wings?
Well, I thank God, number one, that we have a very solid relationship. Number two, that we have trust in our marriage. And I think that that is key, because as Derek said, I do travel a lot. I have to go to meetings sometimes late at night. I mean, and there's never an issue. My phone's not blowing up like every 5 minutes, like, where are you? When are you coming home? So I'm very, very thankful for that. And we've been able to do it throughout the years. My husband is the one who's actually the catalyst that has pushed me to be where I am today. He was the one who told me, no, you need to go get your broker's license. No, you need to open your own brokerage. No, you need to, just everything along the way. He has been super, super supportive. And I actually had a young woman call me last week to ask me some of the same things, because she was looking into getting into real estate full time. And the one thing that I told her is, if you have a family and she has small children, is your husband on board?
Yeah.
Because if your husband is not on board, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what I'm very, very thankful, that he has not only been on board, but he has been the one pushing me in a lot of instances where I was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And so, BJ, I mean, you think about what she just said, right? And we can kind of speak to the fellas. Because, oftentimes, if you're married or in a relationship with a superpower woman or a high-powered woman, to some degree, for some men, it can create some level of intimidation,
It does.
competition, and it doesn't necessarily turn into that support whereby she can't go out and spread her wings because he is blowing her phone up. There is some insecurities. So, BJ, what's your thoughts just on just that dynamic right there, speaking to the brothers for a minute?
Man, Bob, I think Melanie was spot on. The two things that she said that I can relate to is one, God first, and trust. So those two things, I mean, you winning already. You already winning, right? But I know myself, sometimes I run into situations where people ask me the same type of questions that sound like how do you do it, or what can I do to better my situation, because of my dynamics are similar to yours, and I don't have a fair answer other than that. You got to make sure that person you're with is your best friend.
Right.
You got God in your life,
Right.
and then the trust is there.
Absolutely.
Those three things, Dirk, you really can't lose. But what happens in the conversation of listeners and everybody that's tuned in is, how do you get there? Like, what? And I want you to answer this.
Right.
How do you get there? The God piece is we kind of even know that, but we can talk on it.
Right.
The trust piece, how do you get there? I need to know that. And I also want to know, I didn't ask, how old were the boys, but I just didn't want to forget that either.
And I'm going to add to that because of the fact that, being in the network marketing space, I have a big team.
Right.
And a lot of my top money earners are females.
Right.
And so a lot of times they're in a situation where it's time for them to go on a company cruise or go on a convention or whatever the case may be. And the man has to be home and hold it down if he's not part of the business.
Yeah.
Right.
And so just some words of affirmation or encouragement to those women who are high-powered and high-driven on
That's
how
good.
can they really be strategic on creating that environment conducive to oneness and being able to have that chemistry.
Yeah, tell us how it is for
Yeah,
women.
yeah.
Look, now I'm turning this way. I want to listen.
Yeah, speak to the ladies out there.
Well, I will tell you, and this household setup may not be for everyone, but when my husband and I first got married, one of the very first things that we agreed to was anytime there was a decision that needed to be made, while we consider ourselves to be equal partners, we agreed that he would always have that 51%. That he would have the final say. And I know that for some women, again, like you said, high-powered, maybe making more money, feeling like they're almost like they're wearing the pants, so to speak. But at some point, you have to make a decision to say, okay, if you did marry this man, and if we are strictly going by serving the Lord, then at some point, you do have to submit.
Mm-hmm.
You have to submit. I mean, in life, we all have to submit
to something.
Yeah.
That's right.
And to someone.
Yeah.
And I got married later in life, and I share that with women. I could have gotten married when I was fresh out of high school, and someone proposed to me when I was 18 years old, and someone proposed to me again when I was 21. But I felt as though I knew exactly what I wanted in a man because I saw my parents divorce. I didn't want that. And I said to myself, and I made a promise to the Lord, I said, you know, I want to wait for what you have for me. So this book that Devon Franklin and Megan Good wrote a couple years ago, my husband and I, we've kicked ourselves so many times because we said that we wanted to write that book so many times on waiting for God's best. And so my husband and I think, Derek, you know this story, BJ, you don't. My husband and I actually met on the internet. We met on the internet.
It's going to be a long day, y'all. Right. It's going to be a long day.
But my husband and I actually met on Match.com.
That's dope.
Back before there were pictures.
That's dope.
So this year we'll make our 19th year of marriage.
Wow.
Right? So he didn't know what I looked like. I didn't know what he looked like. But we were both believing God for a mate, and we were believing God for certain things in our mate, right? So when I did my profile, I said I wanted a man who had never been married, didn't have children, didn't smoke, didn't drink, because those are all the things that I was bringing, right? I didn't have children, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I'd never been married. So my husband came up as like a 96% match on Match.com.
Y'all hear this?
And so that was the first weekend in January of 2000. We started emailing, and then he asked me for my phone number, and we started talking. So we actually met.
Because there wasn't no video chat back then.
No video. And like I said, I didn't know what he looked like. He didn't know what I looked like. And it's funny, he always makes this joke. He said, you know, I asked her during one conversation, what did she look like? And she said, well, people say I look like Rosie Perez. And he was like, yeah, right. So when he actually saw me, he was like, "Dang, you really do look like Rosie Perez."
Right.
So, but I'm saying all that to say we met in January, the last weekend in January. He proposed to me Valentine's Day that year, and we got married July 1st. So that's another thing, sisters. If a man knows what he wants, if you're the right one, you don't have to wait for years and years and years. As a matter of fact, he's wasting time. And valuable time in your life. You don't have that kind of time to be waiting. When you know what you want and he knows what he wants, it doesn't take a lot of time. And like I said, here we are 19 years later.
Dope.
And so you think about that. That's powerful. And getting back to some of her earlier comments about the 51%, 50%, et cetera, I think there's a lot of high-powered women who desire to be married, but who are not married for that particular reason. That high-powered woman wants to stay in high-power control. And so in light of that, a man can sense that, right? Would you say so, BJ? I mean, you can sense that initially from that first date, whether or not this individual feels like it's going to be a power struggle. And a man wants to be affirmed, wants to be validated, wants to feel like, you know, he can represent leadership within the home. And he starts to take them body shots early, and you might have an attractive female who has the right head on her shoulders, but she'll just keep dating forever for that reason because she doesn't get that point.
I think, and I'm going to jump right back to it. I want to hear more, but I'm going to add to that. I think a lot of what happens with strong women, they look for strong men. You know, and if you have a strong man and a strong woman, then it's who's going to take charge, like Derek said. Like who's going to take that 51%? Because the strong man in me is going to say, well, I really need a little more than 51. But and a strong woman really is probably gonna say the same thing. Like I'm used to doing 75. So that's a.
But here's the thing, BJ. Over the years, roles shift.
Facts. There you go.
Right.
Talk on.
So when my husband and I first got married, he controlled the finances.
That's right.
Right. So he controlled anything having to do with money that went through him. Mm-hmm. Well, as time went on, we learned that I was actually a better money manager.
Yeah.
And so he was okay with saying, okay, well, you handle the finances.
Yeah, that's dope.
Right?
I love it.
But at the end of the day, when it's major decisions, and when I'm saying major decisions, I mean, like Derek and I talk about schools all the time, right? Because his kids, we're going through some of the same struggles with what's the best school? What do we do?
Yeah.
Where should we go?
Yeah.
You know, but when it comes to those types of decisions, I know for me, as a woman, the whole reason I'm in a relationship is because I don't want to be making those decisions alone.
On your own, right.
In a vacuum. You know, it's like we are partners. We are here together.
Yeah.
Let's work this out.
Yeah.
Man,
And-
this couldn't have been a better
That's powerful.
person on this.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Girl, I love
yeah.
it.
So on one hand, the single female is appreciative of that support, of that affirming, of that pushing you forward. But when it comes time to make certain decisions, that gets back down. Right? So that's where the tug of war of power kind of comes into play. I'm thinking about buying some new tires, but I don't know what to buy, so let me call him. But when it comes time to me taking this new job and I got to relocate and he says that's not a good idea, I don't want to yield to that type of authority or lack of a better term. So it's kind of to pick your poison on that 51% and what does it look like?
Right.
You know? So Melanie, I know that you got a book. If you don't mind sharing the name of your book, where they can get your book from.
Sure. It is Unintended Consequences, The Great Recession's Impact on Communities of Color. I wrote the book in 2017. I'm thinking of the 10 years from the recession. But it can be found on Amazon. It can also be found on my website, which is melaniegamble.com. But I encourage you, if you're thinking about buying a home, if you're thinking about investing or saving or looking at what can we do in the future, please go and get the book, because it speaks to what happened during the Great Recession and how communities of color, how we lost about 90% of our wealth during the Great Recession.
Wow.
So we'll make sure that we put that link in the comments section so everybody can have that. And please support her book. It sounds like we talked a lot about you with life. We talked a lot about you with family, and we got the hustle down.
Right.
You in the right place, you know. Tell us about some hardships. You know, we all got them in our life. You know, we all have hardships. We all run into hard things. And let's hear yours. Let's hear your story.
Sure. Well, when I was mentioning 2007. So that was the start of the recession. People don't realize we were in a recession in 2007 because it really didn't pop until 2008, and when they declared in March 2008 that we were actually in a recession. And during that time, I was a RE/MAX agent. I wasn't a broker at that time. I was just an agent. And the brokerage that I was with in February of 2009, they closed their doors as RE/MAX. They opened as a different company, and that was February of 2009. And in March of 2009, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I always say that 2009 was my year of sabbatical because I was out for the rest of the year. And towards the end of the year, when it was time for me to go back and start back working, that's when my husband actually encouraged me to say, no, you need to open your own brokerage.
Because I remember when I met you, you didn't have any hair.
Right.
Remember you came to my office, we delivered that contract for the first time, and I had no idea, and then we built a friendship from that moment.
Right.
And so it was at that moment where he encouraged you to, in spite of what some might perceive as pain, you pushed through that pain and to allow that to compensate for whatever it was you was going through emotionally and physically, to say, I'm going to push through this and still get my grind on. That's powerful.
Push.
Push.
Yeah.
We already know.
Absolutely. But, during that time, I mean, because my husband was in the business with me for a while, so, in 2008, we had to file for bankruptcy. We had to file for bankruptcy. Like I said, 2009, I was going through dealing with cancer. Derek said I lost all my hair. So that's a lot, you know, and there's a lot of testing for a marriage. But I thank God, again, having a firm foundation, while, you know, there were some challenges, but it did not shake us.
So we all, most of us all know somebody that has fought cancer.
Yes.
Like, what was your real, if you can think back to that time frame, what was your natural reaction? Like, how'd you feel? Like just
so how I felt. So my baby at the time, you were asking me the ages of my children. So my children today, they're 11, 13, and 15. Okay. My baby at the time was 1. And so when I received the diagnosis, really it was more, I was looking at my husband more than myself, because I knew if we had time, if you knew my story, if you knew what I'd been through in my life and everything I had been through, I'm like, this is not going to take me out. Cancer is not going to take, no. I'm like, no. I'm like, God has brought me too far. I'm not going out with breast cancer. And my baby's only 1 year old.
Yeah, it ain't happening.
No, that's not happening.
Yeah. Right.
So I was
shut it down before it gets started.
Right, yeah.
Make sure y'all catch that.
Right. And so for me, it was just like, right. And so sure enough, guess what? The best way to go natural, lose all your hair. And when it comes back, just don't put any chemicals in it.
It worked out.
It worked out.
Right.
So, but that's, you know, when I was sitting in the hospital, when I would be getting my chemo, because I went through chemo and radiation, I'd be getting my chemo, you know, and they send in chaplains to talk to you. Well, I'm actually an ordained minister myself. So, you know, a lot of times.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
A lot of times they would leave being more encouraged. I was like, you can't encourage me. Oh, baby, I got this. I'm like, please, you know. I was like, you go see somebody else. I'm good. I'm good.
Let me know when you need to come back.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
That's dope, man. So, I'm sorry, Dirk. You know
No.
So I'm like real life transparency. I'm like a learner, right? So I like learning from people. So tell me, like, how did that experience, like, change you then, and then, you know, break for a second and tell me, like, how did that same experience change you, like, the person you are, like, right now today?
Right. So right then, it humbled me tremendously, because up until that point, I mean, I was knocking it out of the park as far as making money and closing deals, but, you know, you've got the recession coupled with the fact that I just did not feel well. Like, I had a developer who had me managing 11 homes that he was going to convert. And it just got to a point where one day, I remember my mother-in-law was there, and he had called me and asked me to go do something. And I just looked at her and I said, I can't do it. I just, you know. So that was an opportunity that I had to let go of. You know, it just humbled me. And to be dependent, that's one thing in my life. It has nothing to do with my husband, but just my whole life. I never like being dependent on anyone because I have been let down so much. So having to depend on anyone, and if you know anyone that's been touched by cancer, I always tell people the one thing that you can do to help someone is bring them food. Because that was the one thing because I do most of the cooking, so if you're in a household and everyone's depending on you to cook and you can't cook, you physically don't have the strength to do it, everybody still got to eat. You know? And if you don't have money, then you can't just run to KFC or, you know, wherever and pick up something. And then at that point, too, I wanted to eat healthier because, of course, as we know, alternatives to, how can I eat differently? You know, but all of that is hard when you don't physically have the strength to do it. So I encourage anyone, if you know someone, find a food service, find a meal plan service that can actually deliver food to the person.
So the person and the family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And speaking of that, BJ, you know how we go as it relates to ideas being practical and at some point us carrying it out. I mean, that might be something for us that we can create this kind of cancer society. We have a lot of people that love cooking healthy foods, vegans, pescatarians, and people that eat pork bacon. Right? It's all good. So in light of that, maybe we can be that resource hub as we spearhead this mission and seek out those people that have that similar situation, and we can come by and we can provide that level of support. I know it's a big deal.
Well, let's take a 5-second conversation on that. Our wheels spin.
Yeah.
If there's anybody listening right now where that touched your heart, if that's your lane, that's what you like to do. You like to support, you like to help. This is a perfect opportunity to say, hey, let's put a quick, think tank, small group together to talk about how to get that launch. It don't much. Most of the time, the ideas come about and we don't put them into action. Dirk and I are always trying to figure out a way to add that action.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to help, just go ahead and reach out to us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so Melanie, in light of going through that season, and then, with pain comes a breakthrough.
Yes.
And you being one of the top foreclosure and REO brokers here in the Maryland, Prince George's County area, REO, real estate owned.
Just making sure.
Okay, when the banks, so when the banks foreclosed on properties, the banks now actually have the asset, and that in turn turns into these foreclosed bank-owned properties.
Right.
And so if you guys see HUD properties and things like that in the marketplace, oftentimes you will see Melanie Gamble, who is the one that actually has these relationships with the bank. So she's behind the scenes doing all of that. So coming out of that transition of pain into that season of breakthrough and being humbled and all of those things, it just seeing now your life changed totally different. How obviously humility plays a big part, because if it wasn't for God's grace, you wouldn't be here.
Absolutely.
So how did you turn that into now just more and more hustle?
Yeah, well, because even though I know saying this isn't going to take me out, but it really puts things in perspective for you, right? And you realize that your days here are very finite. We're not going to be here an infinite number of days. And so for me, it was really important to get back on my grind. And in 2009, for those of us of a certain age, we've all read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? So for me, in 2009, I was like, well, who moved the cheese? When I was going back to get my license and to get back into the business, and I saw that everything seemed to be either a short sale or a foreclosure. And I'm like, well, how do we get into this foreclosure business? Because I had been in it a little bit prior to the market crashing, and I lost a lot of connections, but I said, you know what, I have got to, because this is where the cheese is, right? So I've got to get over here. And I just went to work. I went to every conference, and that's what I used to tell people all the time. People say, well, how did you get into the business? I said, I just showed up. I just kept showing up.
Get there.
Yeah, I just kept going to these conferences. And when I tell you that we had very little money, things that I would normally, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't do, but I will tell you, because I wanted to get to these conferences and because you have to stay in a hotel or whatever, I was on blog sites, I was on all kind of sites. I found this one woman, like one of the first conferences I attended, there was a woman on some site, she said, I'm looking for a woman roommate. I'm like, I'll be your roommate. So it was just, and like I said, it was nothing but God. When I look at my life and I know that, God has just had his hand on me, like,
I love it.
every step of the way.
And that just goes to show, you got to put yourself out there. There's a lot of talented people out there with gifts and talents and skill sets and abilities, but they sit on it until you just grow old on it. And then it never turns anything. And so there's never a manifestation of all the diversity of gifts that we have, and it just stays stuck. So ladies and fellas, you guys can hear she took action, put herself out there, and then boom, it turned into something special.
Can I make some people mad real quick?
Yeah, go.
So to add what Dirk said, right, and all three of us probably can agree, and if you can't, please chime in so we can talk about it. So people always get on me sometimes, like, stop giving people your ideas so much. Like, don't give everybody your ideas. Stop doing, why do you? So it's a reason why I don't trip, because most people will not actually jump out there and do it.
Anyway.
Absolutely.
They're going to say it's a great idea too, and they're going to get hyped up for that day. But are they really going to put the work in? So sometimes I give my ideas and information to people as a sounding board. More for me to get back what they're going to say or what they're going to do, because they're not going to put the work in. So if you one of them people procrastinating that's not putting the work in, this is the perfect time to change that. Prove me wrong. Jump out there and get there, like she said.
And one other thing, I know it was a small detail in what Melanie made mention about her and her husband filing bankruptcy. And because I'm in the financial services space, that question comes up a lot. Do you think bankruptcy makes sense? And I'm a firm believer that in certain cases, it does make sense.
Oh, yeah.
If your debt obligations are higher than your salary, and you're living paycheck to paycheck, trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, and you're getting sick and tired of the creditors and the collection companies calling you, you might need to make that step forward to relieve yourself of those debt obligations. Because most people say, I'm not going to file bankruptcy because it's going to damage my credit. But your credit bad anyway.
Yeah, you already got bad.
It ain't going to get no worse. So if it's going to be bad, might as well be bad with no debt obligations. And just start over. Because think about this. If you go to get a brand new car, 2019, 2020, and you make 80 grand with bad credit, and then here I come in there, I make 80 grand with no debt obligations, but I filed bankruptcy. The car dealership is going to say, I'd rather trust the guy with the bankruptcy and make 80 grand because he don't have no other bills. And so therefore now I have a car note that allows me now to accumulate more debt, or credit rather, that improves my credit situation and work through it. And that's why business people do it all the time. It's the regular people just say, nah, I ain't doing that, and rather just stay stuck. I remember, because when I transitioned careers from the RE/MAX, I filed a Chapter 7 myself, and part of the reason was I had tons of rental properties, man. And that collapse that you're talking about, all my rental properties went underwater. And when they went underwater, that means my tenant wasn't paying. The next thing you know, I'm kicking out 10 grand a month just to cover this shortfall. And I got to that place and say, listen, let's just keep it moving. Thankfully, now I work for a credit repair company. So that bankruptcy don't impact my life. So it's all good. But I just wanted to throw that out there because a lot of people make life a lot more difficult than it should be.
And it falls back to what we talk about a lot, strategic. You got to be strategic. If you know you're at a point where, and this is a perfect example, you actually did it. If you know you're at a point where you're going to have to, file for that bankruptcy, whatever it is, even if it's not bankruptcy, if you know you got to, step forward to do something that's uncomfortable that you know about it. Have your plan for now and what you're going to do afterwards.
Absolutely.
That's important. I don't know, we might got some callers, BJ. You want to give them the call?
Call-in number. If you would like to call in and talk to Melanie, because I know you ain't trying to talk to BJ and DJ. The phone number is 240-455-5934. That's 240-455-5934. Call in, ask some questions, tell about balance, the kids. Like I get the work part, I get the husband part, but them other three Martians that's around, because these kids nowadays they're not from Earth. They not. How do you handle that?
So, I'm very thankful for my children. It's funny. I tell this story. So my oldest son, he's to the point where, and I'm sure because you're all men, so you were 15 at one time, and
I'm still 15.
Where you start, I guess as my mom would say, they start smelling themselves, but the testosterone starts to rise up, and I just remember going through a period with my son where I was just like, maybe we just need to send him to a boarding school, or, one of the schools that,
I'm going through that right now, by the way. If you're going through that right now, by the way, just raise your hand, just do like this. We can see you, amen to you, amen.
But like a military school or something, just to get him straight, Get him together. And so I called one of the schools one morning, just early one morning, because it was like, what do we do? And when the woman went through the questionnaire, BJ, I had to turn back around and say, well, he's not that bad. I mean, because she asked me, she said, well, does he run away? No.
How many times has he been kicked out of school?
Yeah, has he been kicked out of school? Well, he hasn't. Does he fight? No. Is he on drugs? No. Does he drink? No. I mean, I'm telling you, the list that she went down, I was just like, oh, well, we're tripping then. Because we're not dealing with any of that. We're just dealing with natural boy stuff.
Yeah, and that leads to BJ. I mean, BJ, for those of you that don't know.
My brain was just going.
BJ has an organization called Boys the Bow Tie. Quick plug, too, man. I think it's important if you don't mind sharing that. Which I'm sure, obviously, you can relate because you're around young men all the time. And so kind of highlighting what she said, just kind of chime in on that. Share a little bit about your organization too, man. That's powerful.
Boys the Bow Ties, you can look it up, BOYS, the number 2, BOWTIES on every platform. So hearing it is just amazing, because I'm just happy that you are involved. Because the reason why those questions are in place is because that's the norm. The kids that get introduced, it is.
Yeah.
It blows my mind
Right.
sometimes. The kids that get introduced to some of these boarding schools and alternative schools and non-public schools, as you can say, are normally kids with issues, and it's a vast majority of youth in America that are touched. I hate the word at risk, so I'll say underserved, and it's underserved because we don't have the right amount of parents and community and people involved. So to piggyback on that, applaud you really. So I'm going to clap it up for you real quick and just say thank you. But for people who really need help with that, the help is normally right in front of your face.
Yeah.
The help is normally it's your mom, it's your sister, which is their grandmother, their aunt. You got to get your community back involved. When we was growing up, all of us was growing up. It used to be the uncle on the corner. You know, it used to be the uncles on the corner that was drinking the beers and fixing the cars. And as we got older, we looked at that as bringing down our neighborhood. Like, man, they can't have all the old dudes on the corners. Well, those were the people who kept the neighborhood in line, who kept the kids, you know, from doing crazy stuff in the community. So it's nowhere in America where that is really the norm now.
Yeah. So that led us to, I guess, another initiative. Right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So Healthy Life Family Hustle was going to turn into something special for you guys out there that have a passion for youth, men, mentorship, coaching. Definitely reach out to us, drop us a line so we can figure out a way that we can really impact across the country. Absolutely. And impact these young brothers and truly make a difference, because I think it's really, really important, because you know, a lot of our young guys today are growing up in single-parent households. And so although our women and females are doing a phenomenal job, they cannot replace that instruction and leadership that comes from a man.
Right.
And so that's something, too. Obviously, you already have the blueprint and design already laid up. I think we should just make a big push over time, BJ, to solicit some of these guys.
Get the people involved.
Out here, and let's really, you know, because we are the people, right?
We the people.
We are the people, right? Yeah, absolutely. And so, Melanie, just, you know, kind of thinking about, you know, all that what we talked about and what we shared, what's some words of wisdom that you could share to the mothers out there that feel like, I'm trying to get to the next level, but I can't because parenting is so overwhelming. And I wish I had some level of coaching or accountability in my life, because it is me kind of feeling like I'm in isolation. First, I want you to speak on how important it is to have coaches, because you do some life coaching, personal coaching, as well as accountability for the females, and then we can kind of, you know, make that a little practical.
Absolutely. So, I'm a licensed coach and I coach, but I also have a coach, and it's very important because I actually have two coaches, one on my physical and one for my mental. So, because going through life, as you said, a lot of times we are operating in a vacuum and we don't want these people to know. The one thing that has baffled me about being in this D.C. area, and I've been here for 19 years now, is the level of, I love your transparency, the fact that you want this show to be transparent, but the level of people who are truly faking it until they make it is just, it is sometimes unreal. And it's like, can you just be real about the situation? Can we just really talk? So I think it's important to have it, because obviously the reason that a lot of people are faking it is because they don't want everybody to know their business. Fair. That's very fair. But there should be one person in your life that you can talk to and totally be yourself. Totally let your hair down. Take your hair off. You know, just
absolutely.
Just be yourself. And so having a coach and someone to help you, not only because a lot of times when we're in our own head, it's hard to get out of our own head. And so we end up being stuck. We end up being paralyzed. You know, I was listening to
our own little walk in the park, right? And BJ, you know, that's how our relationship, how we met. You know, some years ago. It's always, let me pick your brain real quick, because it's a mutual respect there. And I think everybody should have that. You know, in Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs 18:1. It says, he that isolates himself seeks his own desires, and he wages against all wise counsel, right? And I think most people just walk in isolation but not making no progress.
Right.
And first of all, I think we all crazy, right? We all have some level of crazy going on in our mind that ain't right, that we need to be able to vent and have that outlet where there's no judgment and we can just be real. I mean, I think that's important.
I want to ask you something. So, do you believe in having a mentor where that person don't even know
I mean,
of you being the mentee to somebody where they don't even really know that they're your mentor?
It hasn't been defined that way.
it hasn't been defined that way. Yeah, I mean, there are people, absolutely, there are people that I follow and I watch their lives very closely. Oprah is a mentor of mine. So, I mean, I'm sure like millions of other women across the globe. But definitely, you know, there's nothing wrong with emulating someone and trying to get to that.
The reason I asked that, I wanted to hear from a female aspect, because I myself, mine was Will Smith, and it still is.
Right.
I listened to this Will Smith a clip for almost a year straight, and it changed my life. It shifted my thoughts.
Okay.
So one day when I sit in front of Will Smith, I'm gonna tell him, like, you my mentor. He ain't even gonna know it. Like, you been my mentor for the last 10 years. So I just wanted.
We might need to call him and get him on the show. So look, tune in next Sunday. Will Smith might be here.
Right.
No, it's all good. Well, Melanie, listen, I appreciate you joining us, sacrificing your time away from your family, et cetera, just to be able to share your story. And hopefully it inspired and empowered a lot of you women out there that are striving to be better and get stronger and to do your best, as well as, you know, some of the fellas out there. I mean, I think for my single guys out here, obviously, you know, it's a lot easier if you're in a relationship at times where you do have that help support, where they both parties understand their role,
Right.
and makes that job a lot easier. So